With the release of Monster Hunter Wilds, now is a great time to look back at its predecessor, Monster Hunter World, and see what sets it apart and makes it so great in general. It was both my and many other players' entrance into the series, going so far as to outperform the previous game, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, by a whopping 16.4 million copies, completely surpassing any previous Capcom game in sales. But it maintained this popularity, even following the release of a sequel and of course the very necessary Pokemon Go style mobile game. You can see here that following the announcement of Wilds reminding everyone that the game did in fact exist, it wasn't uncommon for the concurrent player count to eclipse 100,000 people. Even before that, it still kept a relatively large player base for a 7-year-old game. At first glance, I might honestly think that World was the sequel to Rise. Graphically, World just looks better. That's not to say that Rise looks horrific or anything, but it was made to run on the Switch's hardware, and you can tell. Purely aesthetically, I really enjoy World's art and level design. The way everything is made from broken ship parts is really nice on the eyes and a delightful bit of environmental storytelling that ties into what little story Monster Hunter games have. Even if it does consist of the same general locations as any other Monster Hunter hub, Astera, with the sheer verticality it has, feels huge. The same thing applies to the locales too. Despite how much I hate it when I have to chase Rathalos up a huge ass tree, only for it to fly away 5 seconds later, I still have to admit that it gives the levels that much more depth. And don't even get me started on the food. This is hands down one of the hardest games to play while hungry. All the food, especially the meat and cheese, looks so freaking delicious. Monster Hunter World is one of those games that is completely unique in its gameplay without any decent competition. Dauntless tried to emulate this, with tried being the keyword here. The closest other comparison I could make would be like Dark Souls, but only the boss battles, and even that would be a ridiculous stretch for a myriad of reasons. But it's that constant flow of just fighting boss after boss that makes the game so good. Playtime isn't artificially inflated by making you fight tons of trash mobs just to get to the good part. The changes made in Rise felt gimmicky compared to the gameplay in World. I do enjoy the wire bugs and the movement options that they add, but ultimately I prefer the simplicity of World's movement. This is because Rise is developed by a separate team, specifically for their portable line of games. So despite the main gameplay loop being the same, there are still differences in combat. That being said, I'm not going to pretend there weren't changes from previous Monster Hunter games to World, but these were more so things like healing while moving and eliminating load screens between zones, which ultimately improved gameplay for the casual fanbase. Furthermore, with World being most people's first Monster Hunter game, these changes would go unnoticed by new players, unlike with Rise, which maintained a larger portion of the same player base. The only other competition besides Rise that could fit the niche would be Monster Hunter Now, and honestly, it's just not that appealing. I've tried it myself, and the combat is actually quite good for what you might expect from a mobile version of Monster Hunter, but it's got some flaws that just make it not worth it for me. The gameplay is much too intricate for it to be something that I can do while traveling somewhere, as if I sat down to fight every monster I came across, I'd never make it to my destination. The potions feel a bit predatory, so if you do take the time to specifically go monster hunting, you better not get hit, or at least prepare to shell out some cash to play some more if you do. And even if you don't get hit, there's a much harder DPS check than in regular Monster Hunter games. Nobody really plays it either, at least where I am, so there's not even a community. Either way, I wouldn't see it as a way to get your Monster Hunter fix, just more of a temptation to play an actual mainline game. Each monster is designed so that they feel like truly unique fights. From Titty Kazoo's flash, Nergigante's ability to regrow its spikes as the fight goes on, Bazelgeuse literally carpet bombing you. Almost every fight feels like a new experience, like love was put into their design. Almost all of them. The combat is fun, with a varying learning curve based on your weapon of choice. Even though I basically only use the switch axe, I can safely say that all the weapons are enjoyable in their own way. For example, when I first got into the game, I thought that the greatsword would be a great weapon to use because I love unga bunga big damage. Turns out, it requires actually decent positioning and memorizing the monster's movement, which I do not have the patience for. Weapons like the Insect Glaive, Twin Blades, and Longsword have flashy movements that make you feel like a badass. Staggering monsters always feel satisfying and really puts emphasis on the David versus Goliath situation. The difficulty of the game is also only as hard as you want it to be. The main story is fairly easy and multiplayer is completely optional, so it can appeal to a casual audience. But the true difficulty comes after the main story is ended, and you start to reach the high ranks. With all the tempered and arch-tempered variants, there is an ample selection of nigh impossible fights for you masochists out there. In general though, the game is very forgiving, with 3 shared cards being allowed, and if you're properly equipped with armor, most attacks shouldn't one-shot you, so you really only have to worry about getting killed if you get greedy or get hit by repeated attacks. Preparation also goes a long way, with items like flash pods and screamer pods completely trivializing or at least lowering the difficulty of certain fights. The game heavily rewards the player for doing their research, but it's still possible to muscle your way through. However, there is a lot of time that might be required if you want to grind out certain armor pieces or decorations. But you can definitely beat the main game without an optimal armor set, so your average casual player doesn't necessarily have to sink in too many hours. That being said, it can be incredibly frustrating when you're hunting for a specific part for 3 hours straight, only for your friend to join to help and proceed to get 3 of them instantly. My main point is, the game was created so that it can be consumed by both casual players and hardcore ones. So, the only complaint I have about the gameplay and world is that it just doesn't mark which event quest you've completed, which causes the completionist in me to suffer without the little completed symbol. My list of complaints does grow exponentially to match the monster I've been dying to for the last hour, but that's a skill issue. DLC also played a large role in the longevity of Monster Hunter World. Iceborne's release added an entire new story, plenty of monsters, and temporarily got rid of the handler, praise be to Capcom. But Capcom also drip feeds additional monsters post-release, so it gives the player more reason to come back. Not to mention the plethora of event quests and crossovers that result in hundreds, if not thousands of hours worth of gameplay. Even so, the last major update was in 2020, with the game still maintaining its audience over the following 5 years. This is more a point about the general Monster Hunter series, but I feel as if leaving it out would be a disgrace. Monster Hunter music is absolutely amazing. Proof of the Hero is easily in my top 10 video game songs, and it was even played at the Olympics. They use it sparingly enough that it's not overused, and it's always played at the right time for the maximum effect. The theme for the poster boy of World, Nergigante, is my personal favorite monster theme, but some other notable ones are Cynoger's theme and the infamous Basil Goose theme. I'm gonna be honest, the story isn't really the focal point of Monster Hunter World. Generally, killing the dragon equivalent to God with the big stick is considered the appeal. For what it's worth, I don't hate it. It's just kinda there. But it feels as if the story was created for the setting, instead of vice versa. And honestly, that's okay. There is some story to the series, but I won't waste your time with a shitty wiki summary. There are plenty of other people that can do a better job than me if you're interested. That's about it. Have a good one.